One.
Hello.
Good morning / afternoon.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Some of you on the East Coast.
Hey, everybody. Great to see all of you on our webinar. Caleb, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
You know, I wore a scarf today. For those of you that are feeling a little more chilly today, just want you to know that we are in solidarity with you. And I hope that you're doing well. Good to see all of you. I even see some caps and fleeces still on, even though you're inside. So I hope that you're staying warm. You guys are all staying safe. It's kind of a crazy thing, huh? Some of you have been like texting me like the weather, and it's downright scary.
Yeah, my wife showed me some videos of people throwing boiling pots of water into the air and it turns into snow before it hit the ground. So that's pretty magical, but also scary.
Magical. I like that. That's really, really great. Well, we are so glad to have you all online. This is like I was telling Caleb. This is like YMI week eve. Like next week at this time, you're going to be here. We're going to be together. We have been working so hard over the last few months. And so we are just super excited to have you out here and to get that face-to-face time together. 3 days of incredibleness.
That's it.
Yeah, it's gonna be so great. Well, hey, we want to really cover 3 things in our webinar with you today. The first thing we want to do is we just want to one more time just give you a big picture of how this project fits into the vision of FYI and some of the things that we're going to do there. And Kara's going to talk about that in a second. We want to review and bring make sure that you bring some of your good work to the summit. And so you've been doing a lot of work on your listening, and you've been writing those reports, and so we've compiled and done some of the data on that, and we just want to give you some meta themes of some things that we think we've seen that you think you might be interested in, and hopefully that'll help us as we come into this next week. And then we just want to prepare you for the summit. Yes,
absolutely.
Preparing is important, and you've worked hard up to this point, and we just want to give you a couple of tips and tricks along the way with that. But Caleb.
Yeah, so I mean, all of you or most of you have been on the the welcome webinar we did a few months ago.
Yeah.
Because of the size of the cohort, we have over 30 churches. We won't be able to all go around and share, through our screens, but we do want you to be able to interact with each other via chat. So keep yourself muted, but we do want light up the chat to get you warmed up. What's one thing you're looking forward to when you come out here next week?
Yeah.
We'd love to just have you chat that in, and yeah.
Yeah, and Kara Powell, she's actually in Atlanta, so she's coming to us remotely, but she is the master chat organizer. So if you chat, Kara is going to be watching that and monitoring that and probably responding and probably even getting like a little joking with you. So you'll have some great times with her. But she does more than that. As you know, she's our executive director of FYI. And as we think about the projects that we do with FYI, we are trying in many ways to not just do these individual projects, but they're part of a bigger vision and commitment that we have as FYI. And so we wanted to give Kara a few minutes to share her perspective and offer a few words about this project and just about what we're doing with FYI. So Kara. Your audio's not working, Kara.
Sign language, please.
Someone unmute. Are we having some technical? It's Kara. Get me and come back later. All right. Kara has really important things to say. They're so profound that our technology cannot handle it. And so we'll work on that, and she's got some stuff to say. I'm sure she'll be chatting in, so you can ask her what she's going to say. You'll probably hear it before we will. So Kara, we love you. Hope Atlanta's going all right, and hopefully we'll hear from you in a second. So we'll see what goes with that. But we've got other people that we want to introduce you to with the team because you're going to be seeing all of us out here. And Caleb.
Yeah, so some of you have already been interacting with myself via email, but also our team. And so Laura, Zach, and Rudy can come on over. So we want to introduce you. Our team is growing.
Woo! Look at all these great
Laura
people.
And Rudy, and then Zach, already. So we could not do all this without our great team. And so I want you to at least connect some email addresses with some faces. And then, we'll get to be able to get to know each other more next week.
Yeah, you're going to get to know our team really well over 3 days. And, we're just even praying before this webinar, just saying we're here to serve you. I mean, we really want to see you succeed. We know that all of you are doing a lot of things in your ministries, which we're excited about. And so we're here for you. And so we're grateful for this team. And we also have some amazing coaches that are going to be tracking with you throughout the next 9 months. And we just wanted to give you a minute. Some of them you've actually seen on some of the training in our modules, but we just wanted to give them a chance to say hello and to share one thing that they're excited about with regards to the project.
Kara's back in.
And Kara's back in. So before we go to the coaches, here's Kara.
Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon. For those of us on East Coast time, I was having some kind of computer audio issues and logged in twice, so then I was getting this great echo effect. But anyway,
It was amazing.
I got it figured out. Where there's a will, there's a way. But we are thrilled to dive into this special cohort. I wanted to give a little bit of an overview about what this cohort means to the Fuller Youth Institute and really what the Fuller Youth Institute is all about. So we believe in young people and we believe in the church, and we want to unleash young people to change our world. And the way that we do that is we turn research into resources. So we take the best research that Fuller and others are doing and turn it into practical resources for primarily churches and families. And you might be familiar with our Sticky Faith work, which was research translated into resources, or Growing Young work, which was again research translated into resources. And really those two studies were what we call exemplar research. We studied amazing young people, amazing families, amazing churches, to try to figure out, what's their secret sauce? What do they have in common that we can learn from these exemplars, and then share their best practices broadly. But along the way, we realized, gosh, there are some questions that few to no leaders in churches are answering well. And we need to basically launch experiments in churches to identify those answers to those tough questions. And so instead of best practices research, we call that first practices research, which is what you all are doing, is you're going to be doing things in youth ministry that that haven't been done for a while, maybe ever. And we're excited to dream with you, especially around renewed or new ways to answer young people's toughest questions of identity, belonging, and purpose. So the more that I spend time living with young people, my own middle school and high school students, as well as researching young people, I'm more and more convinced that those are the most poignant and pressing questions for all of us, but especially for this younger generation. And so we're eager to see what creative and new ways or renewed ways that you all come up with to help your church identify ways to help young people understand Jesus's answers to those questions. So we're looking to learn a lot with you and from each other. So that's really what this cohort is all about. It builds on our previous work and comes up with, in some ways, new answers or renewed answers to new questions. So
thanks, Kara. Wise and inspiring as always. We love that about you. Thanks for those words, and thanks for that framing. So we want to give you a chance to meet some of the coaches that are going to be traveling with you throughout this experiment time over this next 9 months. And so you'll unmute coaches when I call on you, and then you can just share your name and one thing you're excited about with the project, and then you can remute. Okay, so let's have Scott go first. Scott.
Hello, all.
Hey, Scott.
This is one of my favorite weeks of the year, just as we're approaching this the time with the YMI, because there is all sorts of possibilities. I don't know if you've ever thought about what's your favorite. One of my favorite moments in sports is the moment just before the thing happens. We were just out watching some folks surf a while back, and there's a moment just before they catch the wave, or when the pitch is on its way to the plate and something is about to happen. And that's the energy that I feel as I read through all the different listening projects that you've done. I was talking to a class this morning, and one of the things that I was talking about is how we have to listen to people long enough that we know the world that they carry with them. And so much of what you're doing is you carry young people's worlds with you. And as you carry that world, you hear where God is at work, and you hear where they have missed God at work. And this is so exciting for the possibilities that we have. So I'm real excited about this.
Thanks, Scott. So basically you're saying that this YMI is the Super Bowl of events and cohorts, I think. That's a great analogy. Really appreciate that. So let's go over to April. April, can you unmute?
I can. I'm a pro on these things now. Hi, y'all. I'm April. I know several of you. In fact, one of you just texted me and was like, "Are you on the YMI call?" And I said, "Indeed, I am. I just chatted to you." So it's so fun to see some friends. I've been working with FYI in a variety of capacities since almost the beginning, but this project is really fun. And I think one of the reasons I'm most excited about it is I am personally doing the work that you all are doing. In my own life and leadership, I'm starting a business this year that is putting into practice and really working out a lot of the stuff that we are doing. And so it's really fun to be able to walk alongside of you all as you innovate in your ministries. So super excited to meet you all next week.
Thanks, April. We love having you on board. We've loved the way you've traveled with us over the years. Thanks so much. Let's go over to Jen. Jen, go ahead and unmute.
Hola. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jennifer Guerraldana. What I'm most excited about is I think innovation assumes faithfulness. And I am really excited to get to know the ways that you've been faithful to young people, to churches, to communities for a very, very long time. I am also a local church pastor. And so I always begin with, let's figure out how we have been faithful in abundance and to God's mission in our current context. But it also allows us to just wait in expectation, to just hold our hands open and go, okay, this is what we have done. This is what we've been faithful in. Let's see how the Holy Spirit could just totally blow us away. And so I get really excited to be able to get to know your stories and learn about how you've been faithful, but also to get to dream together. So I'm looking forward to meeting you and then dreaming with you.
Thanks, Jen. We've all benefited from the work that Jen's done with some of the training in the modules, and she's been an invaluable resource to us in the developing of this cohort this year. So we're really glad to have her wisdom and experience. Jen, thanks so much. And then we'll go over to the East Coast, Mike.
Hey everybody, my name is Mike Park and I'm in New York City right now. I thought it was cold, but then I saw how cold it is where you all are, and now I just feel like a wimp. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for warm weather just like all of you. But you know, I think for me, I'm excited to meet y'all and hear about your context. I was in youth ministry for quite a while. And had done stuff with Sticky Faith and had up coached Sticky Faith churches, and now I'm in New York City. I'm planting a church. So like April, I'm kind of in it with you guys in terms of trying new things and trying not to be afraid to fail and trying to deal with changes and all the nuances of doing new things. I got to be part of the Maya cohort last year with our church, and so I led a team, and there was all kinds of challenges and fun and learning with that. So yeah, I'm excited to walk alongside you and to hear what God is doing in all of your contexts.
Mike, we love your experience, and we know that you are a pastor of pastors and a great thinker and a great coach. So we're really excited to have you. So thanks so much for those words. Brad Griffin can't be with us. He's actually doing some training in another part of the country, and so he'll be a coach. And then Kara and Caleb and I will also be coaching. So there's a whole bunch of us that are really there to support you along the way. As you can tell, the whole idea of scaffolding and really supporting you in your work is really, really important. So thanks for that. So what I think one of the things that is really unique about what we're doing with YMI is that we're really just not like inviting you out to California and we're going to dump a bunch of information on you and then you're going to be overwhelmed and then you're going to go home and then not do any of it because everything gets really busy with your churches. As you've noticed, one of the things that we've tried to do is we've asked you to do some cohort modules, and you've been doing a lot of work, hard work of thinking and working with your teams, really to set up for the cohort, because one of the things that you're going to hear a lot from us is that we really believe that YMI and those who come are really active participants, not passive observers. As Kara mentioned, we're wanting to learn with you and from you as you work and think about the experiments that you're going to be doing in your contexts. And what we're trying to do is really pay attention to the work that you're doing, because if we can find themes, if we can find ways that there's some commonality across these churches around the countries, maybe there's a narrative, or maybe there's some themes that we can begin to amplify and give language to other churches that don't have the privilege of being a part of what you are part of. So we are really dependent upon you as much as you're dependent on us, which makes this super exciting. So we just commend you for the great work that you've been doing with the modules. A lot of work. And we've tried in many ways to just make it something that's helpful to you, and we hope that it is. We've heard some great stories already of how you've been meeting and the discoveries that you've had. And one of the things that you did is you did these listening exercises, and then you wrote summaries, and then you sent them to us. And one of the things that we have the privilege of doing is taking all that and pulling it all together and coding it and trying to find some themes across all the churches. Now, in our time now, we can't like give you all that data, but we thought it would be great, since you did that work, to actually share some of the themes that we saw in common or that were more salient as we looked at some of your listening. And so I'm going to just share a couple of these insights that our research team did. And I'm going to try to break it down through what Kara mentioned, through identity, belonging, and purpose. Remember, identity is who am I? And belonging is, well, where do I fit? And purpose is, what difference do I make? These are the common young people questions that we ask ourselves as human beings. And so as Scott said, as we listen, remember, we're not trying to superimpose interpretation on young people. We actually want to give their stories voice. We want to say, well, what stories are they telling themselves, or what conversation are they having with themselves that may drive their beliefs, their actions, their identity, belonging, and purpose, and their quests for that. So here's a couple of things that that came through in all of your work that you pulled in with regards to identity and who am I. Maybe the way a young person, if we could like have an archetype or a compilation of all our young people together, and maybe they would say this: I'm aware and I'm empathetic of others, and I hope they are aware and empathetic with me. Identity for me, this idea of who am I, is elusive. I don't think I completely know who I am, and it's a bit elusive as I'm trying to figure it out. And identity is defined oftentimes by what I do and how others see me. That these themes sort of came up, and these are what's shaping the way that they're thinking about their identity. Okay, again, just sort of brief, but just that's sort of a narrative that we saw come through with some of the listening exercises that you brought in as we compiled those. Now, what about belonging and this idea, where do I fit? Again, if we could take a compilation of all our young people, our students, put them together, maybe they'd say something like this: I find connection through established groups that fill my day completely. Family, school, extracurricular activities, church, small groups, and friendships. And what I fear is loneliness and being judged. And what I want is, I want authenticity, and I want to really be known. So this idea of where do I fit, in this idea of belonging, maybe those are some things that came through there.
That's good.
And then what difference do I make? Purpose. Again, if we could take a compilation of all of our students together, perhaps they would say collectively something like this: I want to be more than my future career. I want to make a difference. I want to be happy. My purpose is still vague. And there are times when I feel uncertain, anxious, and I feel a lot of pressure. Okay? So again, these narratives aren't good or bad. These are what we listen to collectively. And these are the narratives that we have a sense, and we're speculating, that our young people are telling themselves. And again, they aren't necessarily right or wrong, but maybe they have a sense of either being helpful or not. And then we could ask the question, are they developmentally appropriate or not? I mean, these are the things that we have to navigate as pastors and as researchers and as educators. But these are some of the themes that sort of came through. So we wanted to say to all of you, thank you for the hard work and for the ways that we're compiling this data. Obviously, we're going to scrub it to more specificity and try to reflect it back to you. But we just wanted to give you reflection on the work that you've done, because sometimes we do these work, like have you ever taken a survey and then you like wonder what the results are? I mean, sometimes we can have that feeling. So we wanted to be responsible and share that with you. So we've got a chat question for you. In light of what I just shared with you, looking over the themes we found in your listening projects, what surprises you the most? We'd love to have you interact with that, and I'm sure Kara will encourage that as well. So pummel her inbox right now with your reaction to that question. And Caleb, I'm going to take it over to you.
Sure, and hopefully the chat feed and not her inbox.
yes.
Yeah, and
Good point.
So we are so grateful for the work that you're doing, and just like Steve said, that we can summarize and kind of bring to the top what are the things that are common across all of your contexts, and at the same time we recognize that every context is different, and you're all have interviewed unique young people, and you're going to be responsive to them throughout this project. And so if you think about module 0, that was the listening project you did back in the fall. That was really the listening and pulling together these things that Steve is talking about.
Yeah.
And then we made this turn now in January where each week you're going through and we're beginning to say, okay, how do we be responsive to what we heard, to these current narratives, young people? How do we respond to them? And so we've been introducing you to ideas about innovation, how we do something new, and this idea of how do we innovate around Christian practices, things that have been in the church for forever, but we may have forgotten them, or we're recovering them, or we're broadening our understanding of them. And we're thinking about, okay, how do we actually make this practice make sense in our context?
Yes.
And so really, as we think about every time we meet as a team, I'm always talking about, okay, what are our handoffs between the different trainings? And so really, if you think about this pre-summit webinar, is we want to be the handoff between all the work you've done and you coming in person and being with us next week. And so that, like Steve said, you're prepared to rock and roll and to innovate, not just sit there and receive information. And so in order to do that, we needed to do a couple things before you come. One,
super important.
One is be really familiar with your own listening project that you did, that summary. And I would even encourage you, if you took notes of the individual interviews that you did with young people, become in touch with those again. Like, be able to, when you're in the summit, when we talk about empathizing with young people, we want you to be able to picture faces.
Yeah.
We want you to be able to have names and what the things that they shared with you. We can share some of our high level things, but we want you to carry with you, okay, no, I'm thinking of these people, these concrete people. So review that. Also, if you haven't caught up yet with modules 1 through 4, make sure you're caught up, ready to go. And what we are going to ask you to do in addition to having reviewed everything, being familiar, we want you to bring two things.
Just two things.
Two things. So these are printouts. Please have one for you and your team members. But what we want you to have is a printout of your listening exercise summary. So I talked about handoffs. One of the handoffs we're making is we want you to be able to look at that as we're doing exercises in the summary. And so, in the summit. And so have your summary with you, copies for both you and your ministry partner. And the other thing we want you to do, and some of you maybe have just finished it or you're about to, is the pre-summit guiding question and response worksheet.
Yes.
So the pre-summit guiding question and response worksheet, that's in module 4. Please print that out and bring it with you, because again, that's a handoff to what we're going to be doing at the summit.
Yeah, so these are two things that you have already or just about are submitting, so they're completed. We just want to make sure. Sometimes we do the work and then we forget about the work that we've done. And so we want you to review those and bring those with you, because we want to connect the pre-summit with the summit, just like Caleb said.
Absolutely. And so a chat question. So if you were to say, after listening to your students and interacting even since the fall, what's one word that describes where you feel like they're at right now? Obviously, that's a little bit reductionistic. You can't get the whole complexity in this one word, but what's one word? If you had to pick a word, chat that in about where your young people are at right now.
We'd love to see that. That would be great. Thanks, Caleb. Yeah, really important stuff. This will really help you when you come out here. And I love what you said, Caleb. If we can keep the names and the faces of our students in front of us as we think about this, I think this humanizes the whole project and remembers what it's all about. So I love that. So that's great. Okay, so the third thing we wanted to mention to you is just how do you prepare for the summit?
Yeah.
What does it mean to come out here? Logistically, you've got the plane tickets. Our team has worked with you. You have a place to stay, which is really great. We've got the schedule. But, I think, I don't know about you, but sometimes conferences I'm multitasking, and I'm neither at home nor I'm at the conference. And this is not a cohort where you can do that with. We are going to demand your attention, and we're all going to work really, really hard together. And so, I think as I have led my teams in different cohorts that I've been involved with FYI, and as we have interacted with leaders as well, there's probably just three things that I want to highlight for you. And the first one is this: I really want to encourage you to really be prepared for the cohort. And that preparation, again, it's not logistics. I mean, with like your soul, like, are you ready to feel and to receive and to think and to be stretched? And I don't know about you, but I have to get in the right place for that. So if that means getting a little extra rest this weekend, if it means you looking over your materials, if it's you spending more extra time in prayer, or whatever you do to kind of get ready, we just really want you to come prepared and rested, rather than going 100 miles an hour before you get on the plane, thinking that when you show up, you can kind of just take a little nap along the way. It's just not going to happen. And so, any way that you can do that, we just really encourage you to anticipate that. You and your ministry partner, I would just encourage each other to do that together, and that would be, I think, really, really great. The second thing is just be prepared to be present out here. I think obviously with our technology, it's really easy to have phone calls or emails, and we don't like it. I hate it when my inbox gets really, really full, and then I get anxious and everything else. I know, yeah, I'm not worried about you. But, can you prepare for these 3 days to actually truly be present with your ministry partner, with us, with everyone else that's going to be there? I think that that'll be honoring to each other. I think it allows us to really take in the most of what we're going to get around that. And I do think that's a trust issue, because I'm saying this to our team as well. How do we remain present? It's hard when it's in our own backyard, right? Because we still have students at the seminary or other things that we're working on, or our families at home, or things like that. So, just want to ask you to really come and be present, and just anticipate that that's going to happen. And the final thing I'd say is just, pastor your ministry partner. What do you together need to do between now and then? Maybe you need to meet beforehand and make sure that you're on the same page. Perhaps during the summit, you just need a moment to kind of say to each other, hey, how are we doing? How are you feeling? It seems like this is raising more than just YMI topic issues, but maybe this is raising some other things. We find that a lot of times the relationships go sideways, and all of a sudden something else comes up about a hurt or an issue that has to do more with the ministry or the relationship than maybe the conference. But those are really moments that we want to pay attention to. Yeah. So, I just think about what it means to really sort of pastor yourself and your ministry partners that are coming as well. And I think if we do that, I think you'll just really come prepared to be an active participant rather than a passive observer. And I don't say that to shame anybody. I say it really out of an act of desperation, saying we all need you. We need your best, and you need our best, and we're committing to you, and we hope that you can do that with us as well. So, these things. I think it's just good for us to remind each other of those things, and I hope that helps. Now, it's easy for me, to kind of tell you these things, but I asked a ministry leader who has been through the cohort before and who's actually coming back, Carter Sample, to share his thoughts. Like, if he could tell his younger ministry self what advice he would give himself as he's gone through and experienced the cohort in the summit, what advice would he share with himself and with all of you? What would he say? And so Carter's just going to take a few minutes to offer a few thoughts on that. And let's give a special shout out to him, because he's calling from Minneapolis.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Hi, everyone. Are we good? Can you hear me? I just want to make sure before I just start rambling. Okay, awesome. Well, hi, everyone. Yeah, I am really excited to be a part of this group. This is actually my third time entering to this innovations thing, and I do it again and again because I love it. I want to, first off, I think I should affirm everything that Steve said. It is really not the kind of conference that you go to and you just sit in the back row with your laptop and half take notes and half surf Facebook and try to stay disengaged while other people talk. As much as I love the Fuller staff, the reason I keep coming back is because there is no other place I can go where I get to meet this many church people and get their direct feedback as we all process this stuff together. And so for you to be present is partially a gift to me and all the other churches as well. Mm-hmm. And so I would ask that all of us step into that together, because that's where I've grown the most. We spend a lot of time in these 2 days bouncing ideas off of each other. And some of them, my own ideas the last 2 years, are bad ideas. And I need people to be honest about that too. And so to create an environment that's safe enough to say, I don't know if that's working, or that part's good, but what if we change that? It takes work and takes trust. And that can only be built when people are present. And so I think that's a really valuable part of this conference that I just want to affirm for Steve and everyone else that I hope I bring to the group, but I also hope that you do that as well. And on that note, I do think that part of what is challenging but great about these 2 days is it is a lot of work. It is probably some of the times where I have felt like I've just run into a brick wall midday the second day because we had this idea, we worked on it for 4 or 5 hours, and we got to the very end and realized there's some fundamental problems. We have to go back and rework the whole thing. And that can be frustrating. But I think one of the great things about this as well is to realize that even in our failures, that there is something there to be learned, and there's nothing to be ashamed of trying to work through things, saying this didn't work or doesn't work, and then going back and reworking it. And I would say the same for when we go through our work throughout the year. There are people the last 2 years that I've been with that did an experiment and said, we found out this didn't really work. But that taught us something, and that taught them something about their community as well. And so there's nothing to be ashamed of in kind of the struggle, but let's do it together and let's enjoy it and encourage each other. So that's all I'd say.
Thanks, Carter. That's fantastic. We really appreciate your work and your insights, and I think those words are very, very wise. So really, really appreciate that. And stay warm up there, okay? So we got a chat question for you. Maybe you want to really, like, now that Carter's like offline and he's just doing chat, you might want to ask him like, okay, so are there any other questions you have for him? Or what's Caleb really like? You can chat into Carter, and he'd be happy to interact with that as well. So we'll do that. And Caleb, final instructions.
Yeah. So really, we're excited to have you. I mean, this is really the highlight for me. I often say this is this moment where it feels like we're really engaging on a relational level, right? Yeah. So we can start to build relationships over email, but that can only do so much, right? So this is just, like Scott said, this is just the highlight for me when we all get together and get to know each other, collaborate, and work hard. And I think my favorite thing about this summit is that it creates this space for all of us to think about the things and try things that we want to be able to do, but we normally don't have the time and space to do it.
Exactly.
And so I think that what our gift to you and your gift to us is that we get to do this together.
Absolutely.
And so a couple of nuts and bolts, just remember, please do bring printouts of your listening project and of your pre-summit guiding question response worksheet filled out, because that's really going to help us hit the ground running. We're not going to do a ton of review. We're going to say, okay, you've done this work. We're going to build on that at the summit. And so if you have any other questions about the summit, please chat them in now. We can all respond to you, in addition to Carter giving some responses. And Steve, did you have anything else you wanted to share?
I just would agree with all of that. We are so excited to have you. And Kara is going to pray to close out our time in just a minute, but we also want to see through chat if there were any questions, Kara, that we need to attend to right now.
Well, the most recent question that came in, and I was just going to Google and look up, is Caleb related to Pete Davidson from Saturday Night Live? that just came in.
He's actually my son.
That just came in very recently.
No, I'm not related to him as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, look at his sleeves. Look at his tattoos.
He's kind of a funny looking dude, so I don't know how to.
He's not. He's cool.
Just kidding.
He's so cool.
He's my long lost son. Yes.
Here we go. So, questions have, I think I've probably been more struck by people's responses to questions than questions that folks have been asking. And especially in responses to the question about what surprised you about listening, or, you know, more broadly, like what were you reminded of during the listening project, and the number of you who said how much young people seem to really appreciate being listened to. When I followed up with some of you and asked you, how did you know that they appreciated it? You often said, well, because they told us and they thanked us and thanked us profusely. So, you know, I think that's just a good reminder about how hungry young people are to be taken seriously and to be valued as people, not projects or as part of any programs, but as individuals who have dreams and desires and sometimes go through despair. To do a little bit of alliteration, which we've also been talking about on chat, or at least Mike Park and I have been talking about on chat. A few of us have been talking about on chat. And, you know, it's just interesting to hear you all talk about the pressures your young people are experiencing. I was also struck by when we asked you, how would you describe how you feel about young people in one word, young people's lives? The first two answers both started with overwhelmed, overstretched. I think there's just a lot of over blank for young people today that I hadn't thought about. That the pervasiveness of that, what would that be, a prefix in adjectives and attributes that well describe young people today. So yeah, I think people have really been chiming in well for enthusiasm about the summit and what they've been learning.
Great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so excited. We're glad to hear that. Well, great, Kara, thanks. Do you want to close us out with prayer?
Yes.
We'll send everyone on their way.
And I just see that Pete Stearns and the Christchurch team, while they were evacuated from their building, they seem to be back in their building, or at least Pete's back on the chat. And he mentions a new Relevant magazine that had a really good article about Gen Z and identity, belonging, purpose. So you might want to look that up, or if Pete or somebody wants to try to put it in the chat, I'm sure we'd love to see that link. So anyway, but this is going to be a fantastic year. I can already tell. So there's the link. Look at how fast that is. Way to go, Zach.
Love it.
Zach is the FYI co-host. And fantastic member of the FYI team and a TA of mine for my current Fuller class. So way to go, Zach.
He's super excited over there. He's smiling.
Good. And Scott, good depth added to the chat, thinking about over and the response to Sabbath, which will be one of the practices that we will be looking at. So let me pray. God, thank you that in the midst of feeling overwhelmed, overstretched, overstressed, over-barraged, over-pressured, that you are rest, that you are the Emmanuel who is with us and with the young people in our churches and in our communities. I thank you for the listening that's already happened, the empathy that's already happened. And I pray that as we head together into Pasadena next week, that we continue to be burdened by these young people that we've listened to and by the young people that we serve every week, that we wouldn't be able to shake their comments and their stories and the looks on their faces. That we would better understand how they search for identity, belonging, and purpose, how they find it, how they don't find it, and the role that your gospel intends to play in that search. Pray for our ministry partners who are, so many of whom are not on this webinar, that you'd be preparing them and preparing all of us. Be preparing our souls, as Steve has well said, to be attentive to you, to be dreaming the dreams that you want us to dream, be sensitive to the nudges of your Holy Spirit. We pray that as a result of this cohort, that young people would experience you more deeply, and that more young people would experience you more deeply. That's what this is all about. This isn't just a fun excursion or an excuse to come to California. This is our heart's cry is that young people would experience freedom and hope and peace and your grace and your strength.
Yes, Lord.
So please show us what that means. Show us the part you want us to play. Help us to be responsible, but not take responsibility. There are some logistics that need to get into place, both for the individual teams as well as for the FYI team, and pray that this next week that we would all be pleasantly surprised at how well those details fall into place. Please keep folks safe as they travel. We ask all this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
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 Thank you, Kara. Wonderful. Great. Well, thanks all of you for chiming in and being part of this webinar. We can't wait to see you in person next week. So blessings, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Can't wait.